Everyone, hey, congratulations on your new film, Clone Cops.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thank you.
You know what? When I first heard about this movie, I have no idea what this movie is all about. But then when I actually watched it, it was so addictively funny in so many different ways. But we have to always ask the obligatory question: where did this crazy idea came from for Clone Cops?
Well, Phil and we're co-writers on the movie, and a lot of our ideas and a lot of stuff just comes from he and I just trying to make each other laugh. So we sit around drinking coffee and spitballing at each other all the time, and it all started with the title Clone Cops. And we just kind of thought that that was a funny title that we could build upon. And from there, we thought, well, what would that be? And we come up with this idea of this replicating police force. Um, and yeah, it just kind of from there we just kept asking like, well, what can we do with this? What can we do with this? And we built upon a layer and layer and layer of just really silly ideas that made us giggle.
Like to add something, Philip?
No, that's it, man. It's from the 30,000 foot view, as you know, it's just kind of can look like a silly, funny movie, and that was the initial idea. And we were like, cool. Now, how do we say a little bit more? How do we dig a little bit deeper? And as Danny mentioned, we just intentionally tried to layer some commentary in there about all the bananas things that are happening in real life right now, but without beating you over the head on it because we get enough of that, from the news every day. So.
Now, Philip, I have to adore your acting in this film because you're not playing one character. You're playing a lot of different characters,
Yep.
and with slight variations, and all funny and all goofy all around. Tell us about the challenges of playing the same guy practically throughout the film.
Sure. Well, first of all, thank you, Gig. I mean, that means the world. As an actor, we thrive on that that positive reinforcement. So thanks so much for saying that. And yeah, man, it was a really fun opportunity to put a bunch of different sides of myself on display. If you know what I mean. And just to bring a little nuance to each of the versions of the clones, and there's the dumb clones, the professional clones, the hit squad clones. I mean, from an acting standpoint, it's just a dream come true. And of course, I love the comedic side of things. So getting to really let my freak flag fly, and just be weird and funny. I mean, that's was a dream come true from an acting standpoint.
Now, of course, being that there is the clones in this film, literally attack of the clones in this film. Danny and Corey, tell us how you want to pull off, putting multiple Phillips in this film throughout in many scenes and in many throughout the entire film. And we know you mix with cinematography and practicality with the helmets. Tell us how movie magic worked in this case.
Yeah, I can touch on a little of the technical, and then I'll let Danny share some of the behind the scenes around the helmets and kind of what we had to work with there. But any scene where we have probably more than 4 or 5 clone cops in the shot at a time, all of those were composite shots where we had our VFX supervisor Charles Royce did a fantastic job on set, kind of making sure from a technical standpoint we had everything we needed for those shots. But essentially, like one of my favorite shots is in the atrium right before one of the big shootouts, where we have all the clone cops piling into the room. So for that, just to make it easy, that was a locked off shot, but it made sense for the shot as well. I think it was probably 4 or 5 different shots all composited together at different depths within the room. So we would have our 4 clone cops on the front line come in, and then Charles did a fantastic job kind of keeping soft marks on the monitors to know where to keep the next row of clone cops that was coming in kind of out of that space to make the comp super easy. And we just worked from there. And, we did that several times throughout the movie. And, there are a couple of shots where there's just 2 fills and it's not a lot of different clone cops. And, it was similar, just making sure we had really clean lines from a camera and a monitoring standpoint to make it as seamless for Charles to layer those together once we got into the edit.
Danny?
Yeah, and then the we tried every time we did do one of those composite shots, we always tried to make sure we had Phil in there without a helmet a couple of times, just to kind of storytelling solidify the idea that underneath these helmets, it's all the same guy. We wanted to keep reminding the audience of that.
Phil, was those kind of helmets uncomfortable?
They are not the most comfortable things to wear long term. Yeah, man. I mean, we loved the look, the design of it so much that wearability was really an afterthought. And so ended up with a little bit of padding in there or something, but that flat face, really all that weight rests right on the bridge of my nose. So, but I'm not griping. I mean, it was a blast. And we wear those out into public right now for promo. And I mean, it's a showstopper. People stop on the street, kids. Who is that? I mean, it's a really fun look that seems to resonate with people. So it's worth any pain that comes from wearing the helmet.
I'm curious, how many helmets did you guys actually mass produced overall?
We started with four. We partnered with a company out of Alabama, and we were originally supposed to have 20. By the time we started shooting, just due to like hiccups in the production process, or their production process, we had four. So the first week, I think, of shooting, we did the whole first week with just four helmets. And then I think by the time we finished, we wound up with um, 10 or 11 total, and then some of those we had to destroy for some of the scenes. So yeah, I think when we wrapped, we had like 10 or so.
Now, Danny and Philip, one of the things that is interesting about this film, even though it is an outrageous comedy, with the villains being very comedic, the so-called protagonists in this situation are very, very serious characters because of their situation they are in. Why did you develop it that way rather than making them also like outrageously funny?
Well, if it were up to me, the whole movie would have been fart jokes. I that's how I write. Philip is a great writer who really wanted to inject a lot of heart into the film as well. So he would challenge me to kind of, come up with more in-depth and three-dimensional character motivations for all these characters. And you're right, the gang itself do have some really meaty and dramatic uh, roles, and their circumstances are not played as a gag. They're played as kind of a serious thing. And we joked we shot all of the gang stuff the first 2 weeks really of shooting, and the whole crew. While we were shooting, kept saying like, "I thought this was a comedy. I thought we were doing a comedy," because we had all these heavy scenes that we were doing, and our actors did such a fantastic job and turned in some really wonderful performances that I mean, I still tear up watching some of those scenes. So yeah, it was kind of funny that like, yeah, we have some serious parts to the movie as well.
Wow, Philip, you really like those heartfelt scenes, even though you didn't write any of them for your clones.
I did, man. Again, just looking to dig a little bit deeper and try to touch something a little more meaningful in the midst of all of the ridiculousness. And so, yeah, as Danny mentioned, I mean, it gave our just phenomenal cast an opportunity to really dig deep and put some great work on tape, in a movie. So we were real proud of their performances as well.
Now, one of the most wonderful thing about this film is the little breaks that you have, whether it goes to the commentators or commercials and all this kind of stuff throughout that wrinkled throughout this entire movie that kind of give us these vibes of director Paul Verhoeven's you know influences from like RoboCop and Starship Troopers that he famously also did. Could you tell us about if he actually influenced you guys to do that, or you guys just felt like you wanted to put this on your own, and then Corey could add on how to film it differently for the styles from the rest of the movie. But first, tell us if there were any Paul's influence in this.
Man, I mean, that makes me happy to hear you say that because 100%, yes. I love Paul Verhoeven. I love a lot of his work, and it was definitely something that I was in the forefront of my mind when we were making the movie. Was like I wanted to have that satirical edge that he puts in so much of his work, and I came up shooting commercials. So I have a background in shooting commercial stuff, writing, and doing all of that. So. To me, it was kind of like you know, pull out my old bag of tricks and get to do something fun with it. But yeah, definitely good eye, and that makes me feel great that you caught that.
Corey,
Yeah, and then
tell us how that was filmed.
yeah, as far as the developing the look for each of those as we break away from that main storyline, I was really intentional on developing a look for each one of those. So like the toy commercial, we very much were inspired by like 80s era GI Joe toy commercials. And part of that is lighting and framing, but also like lens choice for that. We very specifically used an ingenue zoom lens of that period to be as true to the look of those toy commercials as we could. And then like the Spin Gin commercial is very much like a high key, very bright kind of commercially feel. So it was lit very differently, but still kind of in the same setting of the rest of the movie. And even some of the Crime Time 360 stuff, like the interview where we break out and have our first conversation with Kinder, and you start to really understand some of the mechanics of what's going on within the movie. That was very much intended to feel like a 30 for 30 like ESPN kind of feature. So very broadcast lit, very different than kind of everything else, but still very intentional in making sure it stayed a little connected to the movie and didn't feel completely separate. But again, very on purpose with developing a look that was unique for each one of those.
Let me wrap it up with one last thing out of your film because it really did come out of left field. Is the dance sequence in this film, and I wasn't sure whether that was like part of the script, spontaneous, or that you guys just basically made your crew to put all in the helmets and start dancing out there just for the fun of it. Tell how all this actually came down.
Yeah, I would say that was something I pushed pretty heavily for. I mean, here's the thing, as independent filmmakers, you never know if you're going to get to make another one. And Danny and I talked a lot about making a spectacle and leaving it all on the screen. And so this idea of an epic dance off was something I was pretty married to. And we had this song, Miss Prince, by a local group here out of Nashville called Hey Steve, just a phenomenal band with a really funky tune that we loved. I had some ideas about what the dance might look like. And so I engaged a choreographer out of Nashville here named Shamira. And he, he was like, yeah, send me what you're thinking. I sent it to him, and he sent me back a series of videos with the choreography. And I learned it, and Skylar Tillett, who plays Kinder, he learned it independently. And then we worked through it a little bit together, on the day for 15 minutes, and then we got out there and shot that thing. And it, again, it just kept we were escalating, and how far can you kind of take it, and without getting too ridiculously raunchy or whatever, how do we really have fun with it? So I'm glad that seems to have landed. A lot of people seem to really enjoy that scene, and yeah, that was from the beginning just something that was on our checkbox of like, man, it'd be cool if we could work this in because this really could be a set piece for the film.
You said it well because this film is memorable, very different, and I don't know if anyone could replicate a film like Clone Cops again. So, you guys, thank you very much for carrying this conversation. Really appreciate it. It is a really fun film. Everyone needs to check it out. Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you so
Gig.
much.